students of 4th grade, welcome to your science class. Today we're going to finish the topic of what is sound energy. In this topic, we're going to see three things. Number one, frequency and wavelength. Number two, the pitch. And number three, the volume. But let's see one by one, okay? Let's start on your book, page 243 with the topic of the frequency and the wavelength. But first, what is the frequency and what is a wavelength? Here you have the definition of these two concepts. We can see that the frequency is the number of the waves of sound that pass a point in a certain amount of time. It's the number of waves of sound that pass a point. Usually they measure in 1 second. And the wavelength is the distance between these frequency waves. Yes? Now, if you can see this page, you can notice that we have a topic of studying the sound. And what is this? We are going to see what it's an oscilloscope. And what is that? It's an instrument that the scientists create to measure the sound waves. Yes, you can see a picture of that. Using this information, you have to answer one question. Yes? Now let's go to the next topic, the pitch. And what is a pitch? The pitch, as you can see on page 244, it's how the people experience the frequency of the sound. Yes, it's how you're going to listen a sound, because one thing is the frequency and the wavelength, the waves of sound that travel, and other is how those waves you perceive them. Yes? Now let's see. In here, we can see that the pitch depends on the frequency of the sound wave. How we perceive the sound depend on the frequency. Yes? And the objects that vibrate more quickly have higher frequencies. We saw last week that the sound is created through the vibrations. Yes? So if we remember that, we can know that obviously the pitch depends on the vibrations, because the vibrations create the sounds, and how you perceive the sounds, it's the pitch. You can use this information that you have on page 244 to answer this question. And finally, we have the volume. This is our last topic of this unit. The volume is how high or how low you perceive the sound, but not in the pitch, but in the sound. Yes? Let's see how is that. The volume is a measure of how strong a sound seems to us. Here you have the definition of volume and you have the definition of amplitude. Yes? And using this information that you have in here about the volume, you know what it's the volume. It's what you go up or down to listen something, for example, in your cell phone. Yes? Using this, try to answer page 245. You can see a picture here and you have to write, what is this? What is the wave of sound? What is the distance between the waves? And can you tell how this wave is changing. What is the difference in this wave? Yes, if you have any questions about this or any other topic, let me know.